Do you want to have crack stats but don't actually have crack stats? Then do I have the build for you, introducing the poor man's triple 100 build. That's right, with the use of one simple mod, you too can have a high stat build that works for any class or subclass, no special exotics, and no certain weapons needed. So how is a build like this possible? Well, I'll show you, but first it's important to make sure you're able to give yourself at least a double 100 in any two stats of your choosing except for intellect. For intellect, you will want to try and give yourself at least 50 intellect, and I'll explain why that's important later. But with the subclass 3.0 changes, this should not be very hard to achieve, since certain fragments will give you bonuses to certain attributes just for having them equipped. So for example, this Ember of Char here that I have gives me a plus 10 discipline just for having it equipped. So play around with your armor stats and play around with different fragments to give yourself the stat splits that you want, plus using the armor stat mods to fill in any gaps you may have. I would recommend to prioritize making resilience one of the max stats, as it is easily the strongest stat in the game in this current sandbox, as well as either mobility, discipline, or strength, of course depending on your preferences. I recommend these because the armor mods for these stats are the cheapest ones to slot into your armor, so it saves you more armor slots to use for mods you may want to run. Plus, you'll want to have room for one very important mod that makes this build possible. So let's talk about how you can achieve a third maxed out stat. And the reason why I said you don't want to maximize intellect right off the bat is because of this mod right here. It's called Font of Wisdom. So picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type grants you a temporary significant increase in your intellect, improving the recharge rate of your super. So to translate and to add on what the mod doesn't actually specify is that picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass type basically gives you a plus 50 to your intellect on top of what you already have. So if you're able to give yourself at least 50 intellect, Font of Wisdom is going to add 50 more to that. So if you can give yourself a base of 50, it'll give you another 50 equaling 100. So if you're able to give yourself a double 100 in two stats of your choice and run this mod with a 50 intellect base, you can effectively give yourself triple 100 stats. So let me show you actually how it works. So I have Elemental Ordnance on, which getting a grenade kill will make an Elemental Well for me. So I'll go and pick up one of them here. As you can see on the left, I have Improved Ability Regeneration 30 seconds. That is Font of Wisdom. It doesn't say Super Regeneration, it just says Ability, so it is a little misleading, but it is regenerating the Super. Even though I have full Super already, that's just what the timer looks like on the side there. And each time I pick up an Elemental Well, it refreshes that timer. So if you have a way to consistently make Elemental Wells for yourself, you can basically keep that timer refreshed at all times, effectively giving you a constant tier 10 intellect stat without actually needing to have the mods equipped to give you 100 intellect or insanely cracked armor rolls to give you 100 intellect. So if you wanted to spice this build up even more, you can do that. On the solar subclass specifically, there's a fragment you can equip that could potentially give you 4 maxed out stats using the same general setup, and if you're able to achieve at least a 70 recovery, unfortunately I wasn't that lucky, but it is possible, and assuming you don't have this as one of your maxed out stats already, there is a fragment that can make this possible. This fragment is called Ember of Tempering, where solar weapon final blows grant you and your allies increased recovery for a short duration, and it stacks 3 times. So again, to translate, each stack gives you a plus 10 to your recovery, bumping it up 1 tier with each stack. So at full stacks, it'll give you a plus 30 to your recovery in total. So if you're able to achieve at least a 70 recovery base, or with mods equipped to give you a 70 recovery, you can give yourself max recovery with this build as well. Like I said, I'm not so lucky, but it is possible to give yourself 4 different stats that all behave as if they were maxed out at tier 10. So you don't need to have insanely cracked armor rolls. You don't need to rely on mods like Powerful Friends or Radiant Light just to give you the boost in stats. But, I mean, if you're able to incorporate those mods into your build as well, that's just all the more stats working in your favor. But let me go show you what that fragment looks like. So I have a Solar SMG here. We're just getting one kill, gives me Ember of Tempering for 10 seconds. And kills refresh that timer as well. And gives me a ×2. And now ×3. Now the timer doesn't last as long as Font of Wisdom, but now you can see I have both of them going at the same time. So I have my tier 10 Discipline, my tier 10 Resilience, and now these two abilities effectively give me a tier 10 Intellect and a tier 10 Recovery. Or I guess in my case, tier 9 Recovery, because I wasn't able to get high enough base recovery stat. But if you're able to do that, that is 4 maxed out stats working for you just by having 2 things equipped. Font of Wisdom and Ember of Tempering. So that's pretty much all I got for you. So thank you for watching. If you like what you saw or if you learned something new, please like the video. If you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe. I have more build videos planned for the future, so be on the lookout for those. I'll leave a link for the dim build for this specific warlock in the description, so if you want to try this out for yourself, or you can just use it for reference to add your own flair to it to fit your playstyle, you can check that link in the description. Follow me on Twitter as well. I'll put that link down there too. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again with something new.